Cinemajaw is sponsored by Overcast, an independent podcast app that embraces the open world of podcasting instead of locking it down. No exclusives, no premium content, no paywalls. Just a great podcast app for everyone. Get it for free in the App Store. And we thank them for their support. You're listening to Cinemajaw, the greatest movies podcast ever, recorded on location from our respective homes in Chicago. My name is Matt Kay, and with me is
Rye the Movie Guy, and sitting alongside us is Fill Me In Phil.
Hello, Jawheads.
This week on Cinemajaw, Matt, after we review some movies, we together are going to answer the following questions. Can anyone else besides Tom Hanks make a feel-good post-apocalyptic movie? Will Kristen Stewart win an Oscar this year? And finally, has Wes Anderson made the best vignette-style movie yet? All of that will be answered on Cinemajaw.
Those are some interesting questions there, Ryan. Very good. I'm excited to hear the answers.
It's a Review-O-Rama, Matt. We got three strong reviews.
Are we going to call this one Review-O-Rama? I think we should.
We haven't had a Review-O-Rama in a hot minute. I think it's high time.
Yeah.
It is that time of year. I remember I was talking to Mark Dusick. He's a fellow critic that's been on Cinemajaw numerous times. And he was saying that a lot of movies are going to be coming out this fall. Got to be ready because they're going to be coming rapid fire. And we're in that season right now. They're coming like crazy.
I know. You know, we've been doing this for over 10 years, and the back half of the year, the back 2 months especially, are always like loaded, but it started early this year. Like I'm already starting to get screeners and things are popping. Yeah.
It's going to be an exciting 2 months here on Cinemajaw. Besides answering those questions, we have more going on, don't we, Phil?
Yeah. We are keeping it rolling. It is the second week of Will Smith month, so we have a new clip and a new fact for you. And Will, I'm sorry, I'm a little under the weather, but you deserve less stuffy than this. We are all excited.
Just glad it's not the COVID, Phil. You're COVID free, according to your rapid test, anyway.
Just a Halloween cold.
That happens. And it is a Review-O-Rama, Jawheads. That's right. We have 3 reviews this week: Finch, Spencer, and the new one from Wes Anderson, The French Dispatch.
It seems like we've been talking about The French Dispatch for a very long time. We celebrated Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
A month-long celebration. So it's about time we finally tackle The French Dispatch. Plus, Matt, in honor of Finch, which is the new Tom Hanks movie we're reviewing this week, I put together Stump the Kubinski Tom Hanks version. And because it's Tom Hanks and everybody knows Tom Hanks, the Jawheads right now are probably like, oh, this is going to be too easy for Matt.
Softball. Yeah.
Right. It's a softball. No. I made these what I would call challenging Tom Hanks questions for Stump the Kubinski, but I think you're up to the task.
All right. Are these all like questions 6, 7, 8s? Like
yes.
Toward the end of our trivia games?
Yes.
Okay.
They are all what I thought anyways were a bit more difficult than my standard fare since everybody knows and loves Tom Hanks.
All right. Well, I think I'm up to the challenge, right? Thank you for having such confidence in me.
Boy, this is going to be exciting, Matt.
I got a quick audible. I just wanted to do a shout out really quick to the Chicago Critics Film Festival, which is back. Once again, I'm going to be there. I know Rye the Movie Guy is going to be there. It happens this November 12th through the 14th. Once again at the Music Box Theater, one of the gems of Chicago. Highlights, Ryan, are including screenings of Red Rocket, the new Sean Baker movie, which we'll probably have a review for in a week or two, The Lost Daughter, The Power of Dog, and a whole lot more. So for information, or if you want tickets, go to ChicagoFilmCriticFestival.com, and we hope to see some Jawheads there. That'd be fun.
Yeah, get out there. I know I will definitely be out there that Friday the 12th and Sunday the 14th, trying to squeeze in maybe in a movie on Saturday as well. You know what else is playing there? And we reviewed it not long ago, is the 40th anniversary. They're doing a special screening of Thief, which we did.
Are you kidding? Really?
No. Yeah. On the big screen at the Music Box. And we reviewed it for the Patreons. And it's I mean, it's got a killer synth score. So
it does for sure.
I might even get out there and see Thief again on that Saturday. So a lot going on at the Chicago Film Critics Festival. So hopefully we see some jawheads out there, like you said, Matt.
Yeah. Hey, come on out. We'll have a beer. It'll be fun.
Sounds good. Before we get to our reviews, let's kick this podcast off with a Will Smith fact.
Yes, as we all know, Will Smith was in Independence Day, the Alien film. But what we don't know is that about an hour and 7 minutes into that movie, there is a scene where Will's dragging an unconscious alien around the desert. That desert was the Salt Flats near Great Salt Lake in Utah, which I've never heard of, but it sounds terrific. What? Yeah, I guess that's a place.
That's where all those land speed records are set. How do you not know about the Salt Flats?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Salt Flats.
There's like a PlayStation 1 game with Utah, and that's all extreme racing is all I know about it. I'm sorry, Matt. That's not we're not talking about Will here. We're not talking about Utah. while Will's dragging this alien across the racetrack, the Salt Flat, whatever, he says, "What the hell is that smell?" That line is an unscripted line. Apparently, there's a bunch of tiny crustaceans called brine shrimp that live in the Great Salt Lake. And when they die, their bodies sink into the bottom of the lake and then they decompose. Also, apparently, the lake isn't very deep. So it's just very smelly when like the wind kicks up and like all of these decomposing nasty little shrimp and salt are decaying. It gets carried and Will smelled it live in front of our very eyes.
First, and here I got a couple.
Here we
of
thought
comments.
He was talking about the unconscious alien he was dragging, but no, it had nothing to do with it.
Okay,
it works both ways. The dead shrimp were probably like, "Come on, man, we're trying to decompose. That alien smells gross."
First of all, Phil, you sound hilarious when you're sick. You've got the funniest sick voice ever. And second of all, did you guys you know what brine shrimp are also known as, right?
Krill. I don't know.
Sea monkeys.
Whoa! What? Why didn't they just say sea monkeys?
Right?
They should have totally. If they had said, I would have envisioned like dead snorks or something way cooler than brine shrimp.
Way cooler. I agree. They really gave brine shrimp like such a great marketing makeover when they created sea monkeys. They really did.
I don't remember my dead sea monkeys smelling bad either, for the record.
They're pretty small.
You learn the darndest things here on Cinemajaw.
You do. You really, really do. Speaking of the darndest things, Ryan, do you need proof that Tom Hanks can do anything? Well, then you got to see Finch.
What shall we have? Get your elbows off the table. Get your elbows off the table. All right, you're next. You see, I'm developing something interesting. Giant leap of faith. Now, if you can speak, tell me something about you.
Robots must protect dog.
Warning. The world has been ravaged, Ryan, by a vague solar flare event that has turned the once lush amber waves into a sandy, dusty wasteland. In this waste, a man, Finch, played by Hanks, has carved out a pretty fair existence for himself. He has vehicles, fuel, electricity, plenty of water, books, music, and even company in the form of a beloved dog and a small robot that he's built. However, food is becoming an issue, and Finch knows that soon he must leave his oasis. So for reasons that become clearer as the story unfolds, Finch creates another, more human-like robot to aid his escape. It's this relationship between the new android and Finch that is central to the film. Finch is a movie that could only exist on a streaming service like Apple Plus, or at least exist as successfully as it does. This is an odd movie that mashes genres and tones and plays with expectation. There's going to be a lot of beats that some viewers will find almost too wholesome, and certainly it's fairly predictable. But on the back of Tom Hanks, damn it if Finch doesn't rise above its flaws. I was scared by the trailer into thinking this movie would totally suck, but I'm happy to say it's just the opposite. I loved Finch. Tom Hanks can even make the apocalypse fun.
He sure can, Matt. I'm going to go one step further and say this movie is the biggest surprise of 2021 thus far. I was stunned how much I liked it. I actually had not even heard of the movie until we got a link to review the film. So it was completely not on my radar. And it won me over big time. Tom Hanks reminds us of why he's one of the greats. I mean, this is a classic Tom Hanks performance. Not sure it works with anyone else in the lead role except Hanks. And we'll try to answer that question. It does have some action to it. I love how it's not a straight up drama of just him and creating this new android and trying to keep his dog safe.
He's not staring at a metal belly button the whole movie.
One of them, for instance, is a tornado that is coming to their trailer, camper, whatever you want to call it, and they need to sort of hunker down. I love that entire sequence was awesome, and it sounded great. I watched this in my screening room. It rocked it. And cool. Also there's another part where there's like a trap that they walk into that they end up getting chased out of. That was a very frantic 15, 20 minutes on screen. So it does have some action sequences to it. But however, I would say it's the quiet moments that really shine here. Caleb Laundry Jones as Jeff the robot was amazing. We talked just recently about our favorite CGI characters, and we constantly brought up Andy Serkis. And this is one of those great motion capture performances that just blew me away, because without this android that's completely lovable and the believable relationship that he has with Tom Hanks's character Finch, the movie just would be nothing. It's so central to everything, and it works, and it won me over.
I have a few comments about the robot, several actually. So first of all, it's those hands, right? He, more than anything else, anthropomorphizes the hands. You know, those are the most human-like quality of the robot. Everything else is fairly metallic and oddly shaped and doesn't cross the uncanny valley or even get close to it. But the hands, they just really look real. And the gestures and the little movements he does with the hands, I really picked up on that.
Well, I did like, there's one scene where Jeff the robot puts on like a winter coat. Yeah. And he's got that like winter hood over his head. And the way his eyes look coming out of that, that's where I would say he probably looks. I mean, he's still obviously completely a robot, but it looks the most human at that moment. It has a personality, and he just looks, to be absolutely honest, just looks cool.
He does look cool. So that brings me to my second comment. He looks a lot to me like Scud, the disposable assassin, which is probably totally lost on Rye the Movie Guy, perhaps even Phil. Do you know what I'm talking about? Okay, well, listen, Google image search Scud, the disposable assassin. There's a slight resemblance. Now, I want to talk about his personality, because he's very Johnny Five. I mean, he is very Johnny Five. Am I wrong?
There's no doubt. There's comparisons for sure that you can draw to Johnny Five, 100%.
And he's got with a touch of Wall-E in there. And there's a lot going on with Jeff. He's a bit of an amalgam personality-wise. That was one of the drawbacks. As much as I love the robot, and he is very lovable, as you pointed out, I didn't find his personality completely original.
But we do see his personality evolve throughout the movie. That I don't think the two examples you just brought up of Wall-E and Johnny Five, we had the chance to see in the movies. They were already robots with personality, where here with Jeff, we're literally seeing him sort of coming of age. It's like a coming of age story with the robot in a sense, because
it is
he's learning everything on the fly. And because he's a robot, he can learn a lot faster. So everything's accelerated, and his personality is coming out more closer to like the Terminator in Terminator 2, when, you know,
I know now why you cry.
Right. It's kind of like I look at it as like the robot's learning a little bit. And here Jeff is actually having a personality that is coming to become a much more rounded character than just a straight robot.
How close are we? Here's the thing. This is a science fiction movie, right? About an apocalyptic world. How close do you suppose we are in terms of robotics and AI to having something like Jeff in the real world?
I think it's getting closer and closer.
I think so too.
What's crazy is they're happening sort of separately, right? I mean, you're getting the AI and a lot of stuff going on with like our smart speakers and so on and so forth with the computers, technology, but then also like in the warehouse industry and elsewhere, you're seeing robotics do amazing things. I mean, I was watching 60 Minutes and there's literally robots loading trucks completely on their own now, picking up pallets in warehouses and driving them with no human assistance at all. And it's like, well, geez, we're really getting there. So once those two then start to combine, we're not all that far away from having our own Jeff.
Yeah, I like that his first robot too. Tom Hanks's. It was more like one of those Boston Dynamics kind of like doggy robots. You know what I'm talking about?
Correct. Yeah.
Very cool that even that one had a bit of a personality. More of that of a pet or an animal, whereas Jeff was obviously had a human personality.
Right. And you did mention that this works so well on the streaming service. It is playing exclusively on Apple TV. But can we throw this in the fish tank? I do believe this was made for theatrical release by another studio, not Apple. And then Apple bought it out during maybe like the pandemic. They weren't sure how this was going to play out. Look into that, could you, Phil?
I think this would have been a theatrical flop. I maybe on the back of Tom Hanks, this could have found an audience. I enjoyed it. You enjoyed it, but we're movie fans. I think maybe a lot of the jawheads will enjoy this movie, but the casual moviegoers, I just don't know if this one would connect.
Yeah, I think the only thing I had a problem with is one, you can sort of see where this film is going story-wise, especially if you're a seasoned moviegoer. It's not very hard to tell what's going to happen.
Well, and they kind of telegraph it from the beginning.
They do. And then the other thing is that I did feel that the emotional core of the movie felt very contrived. So it did feel like, okay, they're really trying to, pull our heartstrings here. And I hate when you can feel the movie trying. It's always best when it just sort of sneaks up on you. That wasn't necessarily the case here, but I do think this is going to really, quite honest, level a couple of people out there that aren't going to expect this kind of like emotional weight from, Tom Hanks, a robot and a dog. There's going to be some people crying at the end of this one for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So here's the moral of the story. If you have Apple TV Plus because you wanted to watch Ted Lasso, you should also go ahead and watch Finch. Totally worth your time. Great movie.
I think we said the same thing when Coda came out. I think you mentioned that Coda, hey, while you're watching Ted Lasso, check out Coda. So maybe Apple TV's got some hits on their hands, Matt.
They do. They're coming out with some good stuff.
Was there a jaw-dropping moment for you?
The jaw-dropping moment for me was the story that Finch tells, the last story that Finch tells Jeff about some people he meets early in the apocalypse. I'll leave it right there because that was probably my favorite part of the movie. I don't want to spoil it.
Mine, also a conversation between Finch and Jeff the robot, is, and what a moment this is, really, to be honest. This is when Hanks is creating Jeff the robot, and he starts to talk for the very first time. And this could have been just a throwaway moment of, okay, this is how the robot is born, but not with Hanks involved. We end up getting this profoundness of the moment that he has created artificial intelligence that is able to talk to him. And that first question that Hanks asks Jeff, he gets a legitimate answer. Like the robot was actually thinking and gave him his own answer. And the look and expression on Hank's face to finally be able to converse with someone, even though it's a robot, is literally the best acting you can get out of a guy. It's just, he makes it work. Like, you understand how big of a moment this is. It reminds me of when Hanks made fire in Castaway. Again, could have been a throwaway moment, but it's this unbelievable moment we all remember him saying, I have made fire. It's on that level. It's like, yes, he's talking to this robot and he almost can't believe the moment as well that he's going to be able to converse with this being, this artificial intelligent being. It's great. Love it.
It is. Yeah. Good one, man.
How about a movie poster quote?
My movie poster quote is the last line of my review. Tom Hanks can make even the apocalypse fun.
More or less went with the same idea. Mine, it would just be in big, bold selling point kind of letters, and it would just say a delightful post-apocalyptic tale.
Right. How many times do you say those words?
I know. 3.5 Jaws for Rye the Movie Guy. I'm coming out swinging. 3.5 Jaws, Matt.
I don't think that's out of the question. I went with 3 Jaws. This is a solid 3 Jaws. There's some predictability and there's some schmaltz, but it was good. It was good. I liked it a lot.
Yes. Discussion point on this. Are there any other heartwarming post-apocalyptic movies that you can think of?
I came up with a few, but they're mostly all zombie movies. Because here's the thing: there's a lot of zombie.
Heartwarming. Okay.
Shaun of the Dead. Heartwarming at the end. It's all about friendship, and he's got his buddy on the couch, and it's kind of funny. Warm Bodies. Also very uplifting. And then I had to think of another one. There's that interesting Anna and the Apocalypse musical
with Anna Kendrick. I have not seen that.
Yeah, it's good. You should watch it.
It's a Christmas movie too, no?
Well, hey, the holidays are coming up, right?
I know. I'll check that one out. The only one I came up with that we sort of mentioned in when we were talking about the design of the robot was Wall-E. Heartwarming at the end. It's a little sad, but technically heartwarming. So that was all I came up with. And the other question I had for you, Matt, was, is there any other actor that could pull off this particular role, a heartwarming movie like this?
I thought about this a lot because your knee-jerk reaction is to say, no, nobody but Hanks could do this. And I racked my brain. I sat there staring at the ceiling thinking, who could do this? No, Matthew McConaughey, no way. Bradley Cooper, But you know who could get this job done, Ryan? Benedict Cumberbatch.
Wow, not bad. I could see Benedict Cumberbatch in this.
He's got that affability. He's very, very likable, and he can act his socks off, dude. He is just amazing. He's up there with Hanks, in my opinion. It's early on in his career, but in 20 years or so, 15 years, we're going to be saying the same things about Benedict Cumberbatch. Mark my words. He's one of the greats. So
I also, once we posed this question, stared at the ceiling and I thought, man, I wonder who Matt's going to say.
And you wrote down Benedict Cumberbatch?
I did not. I could not come up with anybody for the longest time. And I finally wrote down one that I wasn't even sure it 100% works, but my pick would have been Robert Downey Jr.
He would be fun to spend that much time with, but would he have made it as heartwarming?
I don't think so. That's where I was going to go also. I don't think you warm up to Robert Downey Jr. the way you do a Tom Hanks or,
right.
You know, another guy that popped into my head was Michael J. Fox. But I don't think, but I don't think he's serious enough. You know, like, I don't know, like this is actually, you know, a quiet kind of movie at times where it needs a serious performance. And Hanks does that so perfectly, where I don't know if Michael J. Fox would have been serious enough. And on the flip side, I don't know if Robert Downey Jr. gives you that feeling of it being heartwarming. I don't know.
RDJ is he plays arrogance really, really well, because I don't know, there's just something about him that comes across as arrogant and maybe a bit of an asshole. He's a lovable asshole. Like his Tony Stark character, we all fall in love with despite his flaws, but Hanks, you like instantly love this guy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
All right. Well, Finch is playing on Apple TV exclusively. So if you have it, do check it out and let us know what you think. Shoot us a tweet at Cinemajaw, or you can always email us feedback@cinemajaw.com. That was only review number 1, Matt. We got 2 more to go.
Yeah. Crack another beer, everybody. Here we go.
Yeah. Up next, The French Dispatch. It was last month we celebrated Wes Anderson. His quirkiness and attention to detail is unparalleled in Hollywood. My favorite review I came across on the website Letterboxd for The French Dispatch was this: directed by Wes Anderson? No shit. I laughed out loud. There might not be a more distinct director than Wes. His latest film leans heavily into that unique Wes Anderson style. Is it too much? Or is more Wes Anderson always the right choice? Matt Kay and I got in our mini car and drove to France to grab a copy of The French Dispatch. With every film, Wes Anderson grows his family of actors. The French Dispatch has so many stars in it, it might actually be easier to list who isn't in the film than who is. Bill Murray, of course he's in it. He plays Arthur Horowitz Jr., the founder and editor of The French Dispatch. When he dies, the newspaper will send him off with a final edition listing his obituary. The film is made up of 3 vignettes that are stories that appear inside the Dispatch in earlier editions. They are The Concrete Masterpiece, Revisions of the Manifesto, and The Private Dining Room of the Police Commissioner. There are also some small pieces, one of them called The Cycling Reporter, played by Owen Wilson in that one. My favorite of the 3 short stories is the first one, The Concrete Masterpiece. This one sees Benicio del Toro play an inmate who paints. His artwork is discovered by Adrian Brody, who promotes him, hoping to hit it big when he sells his artwork. Problem is, Weary ends up painting his masterpiece. There are many hilarious performances in this film. Timothy Charlemay and Frances McDormand are great in the second story, and I love Tilda Swinton as the guest speaker. Also on that note, Jeffrey Wright and Liv Schreiber are fantastic when doing this talk show host bit in which they recant the third story. So it's almost a story within a story. Wes Anderson has an eye for detail, as we have seen in all of his films, and The French Dispatch is no exception. Wes also plays around with black and white when telling the small stories and color when we see the newspaper at work. Aspect ratios are changed as well sometimes. And I have said many times, I love all his films, and I'm sure I'll love this one when I see it a second time. However, on first viewing, I'd say this is minor Wes. It felt to me like he made this one for his fans, which I am one. Matt, you are not that big of a fan, not as big as I am anyways. So I wonder, how did the French Dispatch play for you?
All right. Here's the thing. I agree with you, Ryan. I think this is minor Anderson. I can't point to any of his movies that I don't like. That's the thing, right? Like even Isle of Dogs, which I've said in the past, isn't my favorite Wes Anderson movie. Certainly the second banana to the Fantastic Mr. Fox, in my opinion. This one doesn't even come close to that. I mean, I just didn't have fun with it. It reminded me, and a lot of people liked the Coen Brothers anthology movie. What was it called? Buster Scruggs or something like that? Yeah,
The Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Yeah. I didn't care for that one. There's some cool stories within that movie, but with the French Dispatch, it's just so over the top, like indulgent. It's indulgent. It's Wes Anderson saying, I'm going to make a movie and just have fun. There's nothing said by this movie. There's no theme. It's just vignettes that don't even connect with a common theme unless I guess you count the newspaper, which I don't give a crap about. It didn't make me care about the newspaper. It didn't even make me care about writing, which is this is kind of about writing, I guess. Did I have some fun? Did I enjoy some of the whimsy? Did I enjoy some of the meticulous shots that he put on screen? Yes, of course I did. They're delightful, but it has to cohese into something relevant. And this just doesn't. It felt like cinematic masturbation, and I was bored through the entire first half. I also think I enjoyed the second half a lot more. My favorite story is definitely the last one with Frances McDormand by a long shot. That was the best one. And I thought that it ended pretty well. I did like how they wrapped everything up. But otherwise, kind of blah on this.
So I will say this: it's clear that the French Dispatch is kind of filling in for the New Yorker. So if you think of like the way the New Yorker runs, it's small pieces and it's got odd stories, and it really does come off like Wes Anderson probably is a fan of the New Yorker. It would only make sense that he is. And this is what he's into. And he loves the reporting style. And he's just going to go ahead and make a movie on what his interests are and what he likes. That's the way the French Dispatch really did play off. Is it for everybody? Probably not. But as you just said, you don't normally see a movie that you dislike of Wes Anderson's. I don't think he can make a necessarily a bad movie in that sense. I think at worst, you might be like, that wasn't as funny as I thought. But he puts so much care and so much effort into the movie that it's just amazing to see it all unfold. And I think we see that in the opening shot where we get this empty building and gateway, in front of the building. And then people start to come out. The lady starts to bat a rug and the town sort of comes to life. And by the end of it, it's like, wow, there it is. There's the perfect Wes Anderson shot. It's this, perfect square. And there's literally 75 people in the shot doing different things. And you can look anywhere on the screen and be somewhat entertained by something going on.
Two shots that stood out for me. First was when they show the factory. Not the factory, the print house. When you see like pages going across the screen, there's a couple of wheels turning, very like almost Rube Goldberg-esque. I liked it. The other one was when I guess he's a waiter or something. He fills up a tray of all these different drinks and he brings them upstairs to the office where they're making the newspaper, the editor's meeting or whatever.
I love it.
And all the little windows and stairs that he has to climb a ladder. The tray goes up on a dumbwaiter. Delightful. That was just such. But here's some visual nitpicks I have. You mentioned that he's playing with color. Why? There was no reason for that. There was no theme. There was no I can't figure out what he was doing, switching sometimes from twice in one scene from color to black and white. It didn't make sense to me.
Well, it's interesting because, like I mentioned, a lot of times in at least two of the stories, maybe all three, but at least two of them, we're really seeing someone else recap the story. It's almost like the newspaper is talking about how this person presented the story, and then that person is presenting the actual vignette. So, but for instance,
in the painting one, they flip color back and forth even within the flashback, if you will.
They do, yeah. But isn't that the one where Tilda Swinton is sort of like the guest speaker, where she's talking to like an auditorium?
Yeah, that was hilarious.
It was great. What a performance by Tilda Swinton.
Yeah, that was. There's a couple of where she delves into sexual stories for no reason.
And it gets really awkward. Yeah.
It's I'm going to pour my drink now, and then she disappears beneath the podium to pour herself a drink. It was good, but again,
those moments make me laugh. I chuckle just recapping this. How about how he's the only one to be able to cast lately Adrian Brody and use him in anything good? He was hysterical in here trying to sell the artwork. I love him in his Wes Anderson comedic roles. I don't even think of Adrian Brody as being funny in anything else. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jawheads, but I don't think he's funny in any other movie. But boy, is he funny when he pops up in a Wes Anderson movie.
Here's another quick nitpick here, Ryan. You can defend this if you want to. There is a great action sequence in this movie that, and don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of animation, Phil. Please don't jump on me for saying this. They relegate to animation. It's all this buildup. There's been this gunplay. There's a battle. There's a bit of a standoff between the police and this gang. And then the action happens, and all of a sudden it switches to animation. The animation was not spectacular. It was pretty drab. The action sequence within the animation was cool, but I would have much rather have seen that with the actual actors.
Yeah, he's toyed with that kind of animation right in the middle of the movie before. So I didn't mind it nearly as much. I was along for the ride.
Seemed lazy to me.
All right. Timothy Charlemay pretty solid. We just saw him in Dune, and then he's the star of the second vignette as the student who is, part of this like revolution that's going on. And I love the chess game that they're playing. Again, this is very Wes Anderson-esque, where they have to yell out the exact move all the way across, and it goes to multiple people.
They're playing chess with the mayor. Yeah.
It's hysterical. It's just very bizarre stuff. I love it.
It's bizarre for the sake of being bizarre, though. I don't know. Charlemay was great. I liked him. He's good.
Yes. And I mean, literally, there's so many people in this. I mean, Owen Wilson is the cycling reporter. He's just a brief role. Elizabeth Moss pops up in the actual newspaper room that's sort of tying the three vignettes together. And there's a moment in there in the very beginning where it's almost very rhythmic, where Bill Murray would speak, and then everybody in the room would sort of whisper like in like a shocked discussion, and then it would stop, and then he would say something again, and then that same shocked discussion would happen. Very funny. I mean, just the beats of the film, it goes.
Yeah, but all these things are like little moments that to me didn't coalesce into something larger. They were fun in and of themselves, but like, listen, I'm not watching YouTube. I'm watching a movie, and I want something overarching that ties the whole thing together in a pretty little package. It missed for me.
Yeah, it is tough to do that when you're doing these vignette movies, and we'll discuss that on our discussion points. But I will say, watching, I think, just these separate short films within the movie is a nice treat. I could see myself, if I own this movie, just watching like, okay, I'm going to see the Benicio del Toro Painter episode, and watch it for 20 minutes. And it's like you're watching a short film of Wes Anderson. So I like that aspect of it as well.
I'll give it another spin before the end of the year. Maybe it'll get higher up on my list.
Jaw-dropping moment for you, Matt K?
Jaw-dropping moment for me was the fact that he chose to make the best action sequence in the movie crappy animation. Just don't like that choice.
I didn't have a problem with that nearly as much as you did, obviously. But for me, I've been speaking of this Benicio del Toro scene, and it opens up with him painting a nude artist. The artist, the subject that he's painting is the actress, I think, is Léa Seydoux, the French actress. She's also in No Time to Die. And the idea when you see this, this is the first like gag of the movie, the real gag, where you see him painting. You would think they're in like maybe an art studio or a school, and it turns out no, they're in prison, and he's the inmate, and she's the
mental asylum. Yeah,
yeah, and from what you see take place of them creating this nude painting, and then when time's up, he goes in, he gets in his outfit, and she gets in her outfit, and it's like, oh, this is where we're at. Great gag.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Movie poster quote.
Wes Anderson misses. That's my quote.
Shock. I went with happy to, in quotes, report we have another hilarious Wes Anderson film.
You said you weren't as high on this as I thought you were, but you're just as high on it as I thought you were going to be. Where's the flaws? Where's the criticism here, Ryan?
Well, I will say it's not as like profound of a movie that I would want. I always want him to
not
to
as
end
profound.
The movie.
It's not profound at all.
Well, I know that's why I want him to end the movie where it's kind of like the Royal Tenenbaums or there's been some big ones. I even love the ending sequence of Life Aquatic where I'm like, he really swung for the fences here. It doesn't have any of that. He's not even trying that hard for that big of a moment in this film.
This is this is the Adam Sandler movie of Wes Anderson. He just got all his friends together. Hey guys, let's go to France and make a movie.
I just love how he can basically get anybody in Hollywood. It seems like I said, I mean,
Ed Norton. We didn't even mention Ed Norton.
There's probably 40 people we haven't mentioned. Some of them pop up. They're like, oh, wow, didn't even know this person was in the movie. So yeah, it's great.
It is.
How many Jaws, Matt K?
2 Jaws.
3 Jaws for Rye the Movie Guy for The French Dispatch. It is playing exclusively in theaters. Let us know what you think, Jawheads. Quick discussion point on it, Matt, is what is the best anthology type movie with these like vignettes or short stories all combined into one film? Do you got one that comes to mind that's like, yes, that's a great one?
Pause. I didn't write the answer to this. I thought we had has Wes Anderson made the best vignette style movie? I missed that somehow.
Oh, okay. Well,
let me think of one real quick.
Yeah.
Best vignette style. Okay, I got one.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the one that pops to my mind right away is Creepshow. I mean, that is an amazing movie all the way through.
There you go. I went with, I wrote down a few. The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, maybe the last decent one, even though I had problems with some of the short stories in there. New York Stories, which was Woody Allen, Martin Scorsese. And then the one that I thought for my pick for the best was Four Rooms.
Oh, yeah. That is a good one. Good call, Rye. Yeah.
And, but as I wrote this down, who directed all the Four Rooms? Quentin Tarantino.
Right. Yeah,
Can we throw it in the fish tank?
Tarantino definitely directed one of the rooms, but not all four, right? It was each one was a different director. So was it like The Usual Suspects? Was it like Tarantino, Rodriguez?
Throw it in the fish tank. I'm not positive myself, but I remember really liking Four Rooms. It's been a long time since I've seen it.
And Clive Owen is the bellhop that ties it all together, right?
No, that's Tim Roth.
Tim Roth.
Yes, Tim Roth was the bellhop. So that was my pick. Anything else on the French Dispatch, or are we good?
No, we're good. We're good.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure you got it all out of your system, man.
Well, if I have anything else to report, Ryan, I'll hop on my bicycle and draw you a little cartoon.
I love it. Jawheads, we are going to take a break. When we come back, we still have a review of Spencer, plus answering the question, will Kristen Stewart win an Oscar this year? And Matt Kay is playing Stump, the Kubinski Tom Hanks version. Stick with us. When going into a Will Smith film, I'm usually getting ready for some big action sequences. I'm not thinking to myself, I'm going to cry. But such was the case when he made the movie Pursuit of Happiness. It started hitting me early on that this was not the typical Will Smith movie I was used to seeing. I could feel the emotion. I could feel the tears in my eyes starting to well up, especially in this scene, about midway through the movie when he talks to his son, Jaden.
Hey. Don't ever let somebody tell you you can't do something. Not even me. All right?
All right.
You got a dream, you got to protect it. People can't do something themselves. They want to tell you you can't do it. You want something, go get it. Period. Let's go.
Hey, Jawheads, we all know November in Cinemajaw land means two things, Thanksgiving and Will Smith. And the best thing is, just like those greedy colonizers' cups overflow with native grains and culinary offerings, Will Smith has a cornucopia of movies available online. On Netflix, you can check out Ali, 7 Pounds, Collateral Beauty, and of course, Netflix's own Bright. Amazon Prime subscriptions include Life in a Year. The Aladdin remake is on Disney, obviously. And HBO Max subscribers rise up because I Am Legend, Hitch, Independence Day, Bad Boys 1 and 2, and Wild Wild West are all on there. And while you're at it, Will's got you feeling a special kind of way, and HBO Max also has you covered with a few episodes of The Fresh Prince from TV Land as well.
And we are back on Cinemajaw. Matt, before we get to Stump the Kubinski and before we get to Spencer, we threw a few items into the fish tank. And I know Phil, he wants to swim up top. So let's open up that fish tank.
Wait a moment! It's fish! Isn't it?
DC! Wake up!
No, Pat, it's a giant glass bowl. Hey, get some fish folk.
Who's coming with me besides Flipper? Here.
That's a Sicilian message. It means Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Yes, thank you guys so much. You made it easy on me this week. I appreciate that. I think you guys took pity on me for my physical well-being. We only had 2 in here. The first one is just the story behind Finch, whether it was going to be released in theaters or if it was direct to streaming. And it originally was going to be released by Universal in theaters. It was slated to release October 2nd of 2020. We all obviously know how 2020 turned out. And because of that, it got pushed back to April 2021, then August 2021, then again, even later in August 2021, and Universal just threw in the towel, said, you know what, guys, we give up. They sold it to Apple. Apple then renamed it from its original name, BIOS, to Finch, and here we are now. That's the long journey of Finch becoming Finch.
Much better title. Geez, BIOS was going to be the name, I guess, because of the operating system of the robot, BIOS.
I mean, I wasn't sold on the name Finch either, to be absolutely honest. I thought it was kind of a weak title, but it's definitely better than BIOS. But
see, I think BIOS is kind of cool.
I think they could have
fitting
done better
for the movie. Like BIOS is more Matrix-y to me in my head.
I actually would have just went with Hanks and a Robot.
Hanks and a Robot works for me.
Sign me up. I'd be there if that was it. Ryan, they should have hired you. Our next one, who directed The Rooms in 4 Rooms? You guys should have kept going. You really dropped the ball. The 2 that you guessed were dead on. Quentin and Robert Rodriguez definitely were in there. They made the Penthouse and Room 309 segments respectively. And then I'll be honest, I don't blame you guys for not getting these 2 because I have never heard of them. Alexander Rockwell came in for Room 404 and Allison Anders did The Honeymoon Suite. I tried to look up on Wikipedia some of their previous films, and there's like a couple of other films. I haven't really heard of them. I don't know if any of these names mean anything. We got In the Soup, Somebody to Love, but they're established professors of film at different institutions, NYU.
Like I said, it's been some years since I've seen four Rooms, but I remember being a big fan. I'd actually like to sit down after just talking about it briefly here. I'd like to rewatch that.
Me too. Maybe they were film professors of Rodriguez and Tarantino, who were very young when 4 Rooms was made. So that could be.
Do we know where Robert and Quentin are from? University of California, Santa Barbara. I don't know. I guess I should have looked that up too. Maybe I'll put that in at the end of the show. I'll look that up while you guys are reviewing Spencer.
Nice. A double fish tank.
I'll always like a double fish tank. Was that everything in there, Phil?
Oh, that's all we got, guys.
All right. Jump back in there.
You betcha.
All right, Ryan, it is time for the review of Spencer. Pablo Larraín, who also gave us 2016's Jackie, continues to explore the subject of powerful, larger-than-life, iconic women with this year's Spencer. Does this Princess Diana flick starring Kristen Stewart hold up, or does it flicker out like a candle in the wind? Ryan and I headed to the movie palace to find out.
Mummy, what's happened to make you so sad?
Well, here, in this house, there is no future. Past and the present are the same thing. Diana, they can't change. You have to change.
You have to be able to do things you hate.
You hate?
There has to be 2 of you. There's the real one and the one they take pictures of. Diana, for the good of the country.
For the country.
Let me get this one right out of the way at the top here, Ryan. Spencer is a visual and audio masterpiece. Johnny Greenwood graces us with another sumptuous score of strings that can go from calm and classical to dissonant and insane on a dime, and perfectly matches the emotions we see on the screen. Likewise, cinematographer Claire Mathin stuns with battling pastels, popping primaries, and deep sepias. Near the opening, there's an overhead shot that was so masterfully composed that Stanley Kubrick would be jealous. Now onto what you're all waiting to hear about, Kristen Stewart as Princess Diana. I would not have believed this performance if I had not seen it with my own eyes, and I'm a Kristen Stewart fan, a big one. Stewart is so completely transformed and lost in this role that the term tour de force seems like an understatement. Her eyes glitter and her internal turmoil is laid bare in each and every frame she occupies, which is nearly the entire movie. The story is described by the opening title card as a fable based on a true tragedy. It takes place at a royal retreat for the holidays where there are whispering staff members, a scowling major, hallucinatory handmaids, the Queen Mother, and even Anne Boleyn. The cast is all superb, but this is Kristen Stewart's show. Lorraine plays with the themes of love, freedom, currency, and agency, and it all just works. This is one of the best movies I've seen all year.
Wow, you are really big on Spencer. I love it, Matt. Let me start with the Johnny Greenwood score, because obviously I've talked about being a big fan of Radiohead, and I love Greenwood's work with Paul Thomas Anderson. We talked about Phantom Thread, how much we liked it. And I'm sitting there watching Spencer, and as soon as the strings come on, I thought, oh man, this sounds like it's a Johnny Greenwood. And I knew I was in for a treat. It is pivotal. I mean, it is so key
yes.
that the music works and conveys the emotion and the claustrophobia that we feel, that Diane feels in the movie, I should say. It has to work that way. And it's almost, it sounds cliche, but it's a character in the movie, the music. It is just so powerful. And it conveys dread. There's a lot of dread throughout the whole movie, that we feel that Diana everything's just closing in on her and she can't trust anyone. And that lingers from the very beginning all the way to the end of the movie. My palms were a little damp at the end of this thing. You know, it was just like you could feel how much she hated to be there the entire time. And that's a rough thing to go through.
Yeah, man. I think the thing about the score is, and you say it's a character, that's apt. Mental illness, not to say that she was mentally ill, let's just say anxiety, is a very tough thing to get across. Like the inner, how she was feeling just comes through in the music so well, you know? It's just,
it really does.
It's a great score. Holy crap.
Right. So then you couple that in with this like wonderful performance by Kristen Stewart, who does really become Princess Diana. You don't think that you're looking at Kristen Stewart acting, and I love when that happens. I mean, she's got that kind of whisper voice going on that Diana would have. It worked really well, and there isn't a big show-stealing moment from Kristen Stewart, and we'll probably get to this when we talk about the discussion question. But I think that's the only thing that was lacking, was that kind of one big moment. And maybe you thought there was one, but I thought it was lacking. It's a great performance all the way through, but it's missing that big number, in a musical that needs that one big, song. I think this performance needed one big scene. It didn't quite get there for me. However, she was magnificent in it. The cinematography, great. I know exactly what you're talking about when you said the overhead shot going into the palace. It was incredible. It was almost like, what am I looking at for a second, right?
Yeah.
It was so gorgeous. And there's another wonderful shot where Diana is talking to Prince Charles in the billiards room.
Yes.
And they're across from each other on the billiards table, which is obviously symbolic in itself, that these two are sort of playing a cat and mouse game with emotions. But the way that balls are set up on the table, the color scheme that are used, and Charles has the black ball that he's playing with in front of him. The cue ball, the white ball, is over by Diana. There's the color scheme on that billiards table is fantastic as they
right.
go back and forth.
There's a lot of symbolism on that shot.
Tons. Absolutely loved it. The dresses that she wears, great. Everything about the cinematography and look of the film, perfect. Loved it.
Even the jeans she wears were totally 80s. I mean, they got the period right without overdoing it, It wasn't, I mean, obviously you're not going to overdo it when you're in a palace. We're not going to have like somebody walk in with a boombox on their shoulder or something. I want to go back to that billiards table. So he's behind the 8-ball in the beginning, right? Because the black ball, I mean, I realize billiards and pool are different games, but to most audiences who are familiar with pool, the black ball is not what you want to be behind. And then he rolls it down the table and puts her behind the 8 ball. I think the rack of white balls kind of represents the pearls, which they keep coming back to the string of pearls, how it's almost represents like a collar around her neck, something that's holding her back, you know? It was a backhanded gift that she received. And then the red ball is like the hint of violence that's just like underpinning everything. There's just this dread, like you said, that underlines the entire story, you know? And of course, we all know, what happened with the real Princess Diana, you know?
Right. And just to put this in context of when this took place, they don't give us a year per se. They don't say exactly when this was, but the idea here is when they're not quite necessarily divorced, I guess. It's when things are falling apart and she is asked to come back to the royal family as part of the Christmas celebration. It's something that the royal family does tradition wise all the time. And so she needs to be there with her kids. And there's certain odd little things that the royal family likes to continue on with, such as weighing in. They actually weigh themselves before the weekend. And then supposedly after this Christmas celebration, you're supposed to weigh yourself and see how much fun, I'm using air quotes here, how much fun you had because you're going to gain weight. It's silly. It's dumb. Diana doesn't want to do it. But this is the context of the whole story takes place in this. This is not a story of Princess Diana's life. This isn't about her entire marriage. It's really during that time when the marriage had fallen apart, but she was still part of the royal family, not quite divorced and out of the family yet.
Yeah. It's a transitional movie. It's kind of about her getting her feet underneath her, you know, and all this crap she had to go through over this crazy holiday.
I watch that and I think, who would ever want that life? It is so stuffy. I'm one of those guys that even when I go to a nice golf club, a nice golf course, and they got people to grab your clubs out of your trunk and bring them to the cart. I don't even like that.
Those people are called caddies, by the way.
I don't even like that. I'm like, I could just handle my own golf clubs. I'm one of those guys. I would never want to be in the royal family with somebody dressing me and watching over me and making sure the curtains are closed because they don't want the press looking, and all of that was just very
stifling.
Not my style. Yeah, completely stifling. 100%.
Well, and clearly that is something that Diana, the character in this film, is sort of rebelling against. So that, I think, just is completely a part of the theme of the movie.
She reads the book about one of the Boleyns, Anne Boleyn, the character who was beheaded in history. And I thought, what's really interesting is 2 movies that you could watch Spencer and then sort of like tag on to if you want to do a whole royal movie, is they did make a movie called The Other Boleyn Girl. Not that well received. Natalie Portman's in it, Eric Bana, and I believe Scarlett Johansson. And it's about the triangle of the Boleyn girl who gets beheaded. And then also The Queen with Helen Mirren, who won the Academy Award for playing the Queen. And it's on the story of when Diana did die in the police crash, how the Queen reacted and took a long time to react, and why she took a long time to react when the country, and not really even just the country, the entire world was sobbing.
We were kids, me and you, Ryan, right? But I remember it.
Oh, 100%. In fact, my family was never one of those like huge royal family, followers.
Fans. Yeah.
Right. I know friends that have like parents that are like, oh, they love everything royals. I'm sure they're out there. That was not my family, but boy, do I remember my mom, coming in and talking like, whoa, this is a big deal. I was young. I probably didn't understand it. And, the enormity of it all. And she was like, this is huge. I remember all the news and whoa, crazy, big stuff.
It was. So this is a really cool movie. It's going to send a lot of people down the rabbit hole,
It sure is. You got a jaw-dropping moment here, Matt?
Tough to nail one down because I think you're correct. This is a sustained performance more than one that has that big number. But if I had to pick one, it's when she goes home. I don't want to spoil anything because it's a little pivotal. And she sees something when she's at the top of the stairs or someone. So that was pretty cool.
I like that moment. Definitely a highlight. For me, I got to go with the opening of really the film all the way to the point of the first dinner. So this is the first time that the Diana is requested by the royal family to sit down at one of those long tables. And the dread and the music has been building, and it seems like it takes forever for her to get into that dining room to have dinner, right? She is doing everything possible, excuses galore, until she's going to actually go down and sit there and eat dinner with this family. And we can feel it. I know I did. I was like, oh my God, is she ever going to go into this room and eat dinner? And when she finally does, again, the pearls come up in soup and so forth. But the score, very interesting because it is, very string oriented, turns to where the actual violinists in the room playing for the royal family is playing the score of the film. That was a really interesting decision.
That was cool. That was cool.
It was like this haunting score, and then it slowly transitions into what the violinists are playing for the dinner for the queen. It was right. It was great.
Which makes you think they probably were just playing the sharp horror music as well, like a moment earlier, or she could have had imagined that.
Right. I like that. Right. I like that sequence a lot. Movie poster quote.
Real simple. Spencer is a masterpiece.
Wow. Matt K.
I think it is. I think this is what he was going for with Jackie. Jackie was good, but didn't quite reach this level. He needed Kristen Stewart, it seems like.
But he did get a heck of a performance out of Natalie Portman playing Jackie.
He did.
So he's got his lane. I like that he's driving in this lane. I don't know who we can pick after this, but I went with movie poster quote, Kristen Stewart, royalty of the silver screen.
Hey, bingo. Good quote, man. How many jaws you giving this thing?
Solid 3 jaws for Spencer. I'm at 3 jaws.
I'm at 4 jaws. I mean, obviously I called it a masterpiece. This is a 4 jaw. I mean, dude, have you seen anything this year that looked even like close to as beautiful as Spencer?
Well, it depends exactly by beautiful, exactly what you mean here.
Just the photography.
I'm a huge fan of Dune when it comes to cinematography. So
yeah, but Dune,
completely different.
Very different. And a lot of Dune is artificial, and a lot of Dune is and not taking anything away from those artists who spend a lot of time at the computer, and that is a real craft. But when you capture something in the lens, it is a little bit different, right? And man, just looks so gorgeous.
I'm also a sucker. This is a really small scene that we can talk about really quick. I'm a sucker for when very famous people go into like commonplace. This probably does happen at times, and people are just sort of shell shocked. And it happens at the very beginning of Spencer when Diana is actually lost trying to get back to the palace, and she's driving herself at this point. She doesn't have any security detail, and she just pulls into like a little restaurant pub kind of area, and she goes in and asks for directions, and it's like everybody's so shocked they can't talk. I love those kind of moments.
Yeah, it was good. Makes you also realize how difficult her life is,
right? 100%. Spencer is playing in limited release. If you see it, let us know what you think. Shoot us a tweet at Cinemajaw or email feedback@cinemajaw.com. Matt, we teased this question up at the top. Will Kristen Stewart win an Oscar this year? Take it away, Matt.
Okay, I don't know, right? I mean, I'm sure I'm going to say something, and one of our film critic friends is going to come on the show and call me a moron. But for my money, yes. And she damn well deserves it. When Personal Shopper came out, I had already had a lot of respect for Kristen Stewart, but I really started to pay attention to her. And now here it is. This is her moment. I really think she's going to get nominated and has a definite possibility to win.
So I'm with you on the nomination. I would actually say it's a slam dunk that she's going to get an Oscar nomination. I can't see her not getting nominated. So she's going to be in the running. Does she win? There's still a lot of movies still to come out. It's always tough to judge, but she's probably the front runner. As of today, we're recording this on November 4th. She's the front runner as of now in my book. We'll see what else happens, but she's definitely getting nominated for this.
Yeah, certainly nothing I've seen yet. There are still a lot of movies to see this year, so we'll see.
Yeah. All right. We always like to end our podcast with some fun trivia. And in honor of Finch, I thought it would be fun to play Tom Hanks themed Stump the Kubinski. And because we all know Tom Hanks so well, I cranked it up a notch. These are a little bit more difficult of questions, Matt. Reminding the Jawheads.
We'll see.
To stump the Kubinski, it is 5 questions. To stump him, we have to see Matt get 3 incorrect. Matt wins if he gets 3 or more correct.
All right, bring it.
Question 1, Tom Hanks, Stump the Kubinski version goes like this. Besides the Toy Story movies, Tom Hanks has only done one other sequel. Name it.
Wow.
Besides the Toy Story franchise, Tom Hanks has only done one other sequel. Name it. And think about how many movies Tom Hanks has made.
I know. I'm going
Crazy
through them in
to
my
think
mind.
of.
I mean, so let me talk this out a little bit. Is it like early Tom Hanks, like Joe versus the Volcano, Money Pit, Big? No, he didn't do a sequel to any of those. Is it like late period Hanks when he's already America's sweetheart? Holy crap, he did it. He did another sequel. Is it another animated film? He's lent his voice to many an animated character. None more famous than Woody, of course. Wow, I might get number 1 wrong right out of the gate. I don't even know if I can come up with a good guess.
A sequel from Tom Hanks.
Oh, man.
I know the Jawheads. They're scratching their heads as well. They can't think of
tough one.
They cannot think of the sequel either. I know it.
Joe versus the Volcano 2.
Absolutely incorrect. So he made the Da Vinci Code and then followed it up with Angels and Demons.
Yes, he did.
And then actually made a third one called Inferno, I believe, which I have not seen. So
did he put the mullet back on?
Oh, yeah. Mullet was in full effect in all of those movies. All right. Matt is 0 for 1. Question 2. Tom Hanks has appeared in 5 Steven Spielberg movies. Name 3 of them.
Saving Private Ryan.
1.
Forrest Gump. Can I keep going?
Do you have any even a guess after that?
After Saving Private Ryan?
Yeah.
Road to Perdition. Really?
Let's end the pain here. All right. So you did get Private Ryan right, Matt, but
Okay.
Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah, I would have come up with that.
The Terminal.
I would not
Where
have
he was
come
in
up
the
with
airport.
that. Yeah, I remember it.
Bridge of Spies.
Yeah, I was trying to remember that one too.
And The Post.
Okay. Yeah, see. All right. Well, give me another one. I'm warmed up.
Wow. Tom Hanks stumped the Kubinski. Matt is 0 for 2. We move on to question number 3. Like Finch, Tom Hanks has made 7 other movies that have his character name in the title of the film. So the character Tom Hanks played appears in the title of the film. Name 3 of them.
Okay, well, Joe versus the Volcano.
That is one of them. We'll give you that. Joe appears in the title.
Captain Phillips.
That is 2. Captain Phillips in the title.
And Sully.
Sully, he's got it. He is on the board. We also would have accepted Forrest Gump.
Yeah, there you go.
Turner and Hooch.
Oh, I forgot about Turner and Hooch. Great movie.
Charlie Wilson's War.
Wow.
And Larry Crown.
Damn.
So
was Walt Disney's name in the one that
it was not.
Okay.
I thought the same thing. It's Saving Mr. Banks, which is he plays Walt Disney, so he's not the title character in the title there.
Got it.
Matt does get question 3. He is 1 for 3. We move on to question 4. It was Robert Zemeckis that directed Tom Hanks and Forrest Gump, Matt, not Steven Spielberg. It was Robert Zemeckis, your guy.
I know. He's my go-to.
Yep, who directed Tom Hanks and Forrest Gump. He also directed Hanks in 2 other films. Name just one of them.
Zemeckis and Hanks.
Yeah, so they've done 3 movies, Forrest Gump and 2 others. Name one of the other 2.
I'm going to say Big. I think he did Big.
That, my friends, is incorrect.
Oh, man.
What a shame. What a shame. What would have got it for you is The Polar Express.
Boo.
And Castaway.
Good movie. Who directed Big?
I'm going out on a limb here and throw it in a late jaw box. It might be Penny Marshall.
Oh yeah, you're right. It was Penny Marshall. I'm almost certain.
That's just me going off my head. I'm not 100% sure. All right. It is officially over. We have stumped the Kubinski, but last question over to you, Matt. Question 5 was this. Tom Hanks and Rosie O'Donnell have appeared in 2 movies together. Name them both. One of them's a layup.
Yeah, one of them is a layup. It's A League of Their Own.
That is one.
There's no crying
was the
in
other
baseball.
film that Rosie O'Donnell and Tom Hanks appeared in?
Jesus, I mean, Rosie O'Donnell doesn't have this huge filmography. She was making a few movies back then in like the early 90s. What's that one where she is with Dan Aykroyd and they're detectives on vacation and they have a scene where she dresses up in S&M gear?
Tom Hanks isn't in that.
No?
No.
That's the only other Rosie O'Donnell movie I can think of off the top of my head.
Disney's Tarzan, which he's also not in.
Any guess here, Matt? What other Rosie O'Donnell Tom Hanks film is there?
I believe Rosie is also in. She's in Captain Phillips, isn't she?
Incorrect. We were looking for Sleepless in Seattle.
She's
Meg
in that?
Meg Ryan's friend in Sleepless in Seattle.
God, I didn't even consider all the movies he did with Meg Ryan. You know, I guess I talked about Joe versus Volcano, but those 2 were like.
What'd you think of my questions? Did I step it up a notch for Tom Hanks? Stump
Those were
Kubinski?
hard. Those were hard. Yeah.
I wonder how the Jawheads did. I doubt they got any of them right, but we'll see.
Yeah. Write in. Tell us if those were hard. Those were hard for me, for sure.
Before we blow out of here, we threw a few late items into the fish tank. Phil, was I right on Penny Marshall and Big, or am I way off on that?
Ryan, and this is one of the moments I wish I had a little board so I could build attention for it. That answer is ding. Correct. It was Penny Marshall.
Nice.
Not only did we stump the Kubinski, but Rye the movie guy with his own trivia question pulls in from behind. That's like a double whammy. Ryan wins twice and Matt loses twice.
Gotta add insult to injury.
Good stuff.
Other than that, the other question we threw in here, just like the connection between Alexander Rockwell and Allison Anders and Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino. So, as far as I could tell, no, they did not have any classes with the 2. However, what they did have in common with Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino is that all 4 of these directors had their films premiere at I've never heard Sundance Film Festival, some schlubby little podunk nothing, whatever.
Sundance Film Festival, sure.
1992, they had Quentin's Reservoir Dogs. Robert brought El Mariachi. Allison Anders made Gas Food Lodging, that screened, and In the Soup, which was one of like the titles, and you guys were like, "What did they make?" I was like, "Yeah, In the Soup. Who the hell's heard of that?" One Grand Jury.
Wow.
So all 3 of us are truly the jackasses in this. After Sundance 1992, they went to Fugazi it, and they made the super group out of these Sundance winners, with half of them making really good part of 4 Rooms.
Wow.
Cool. Interesting.
Yeah, I'm going to look
That's how it
into
came
In the
together.
Soup. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Matt, you might like it. Apparently, it's very East Coast. From what I've never seen it, but that was the reviews.
I'm going to check it out. In the Soup. I have not seen it, so.
Me neither.
Always something here. Brings us to the end of a very fun, entertaining Jaw. We got to thank our producer, our editor, Fill Me In, Phil.
Oh, you know I wouldn't be anywhere else, guys.
Gosh, even when he's sick.
Yep, he's
especially when I'm
still
sick.
here. Absolutely. Next time, wear a jacket on Halloween. Matt, we've also got to thank our sponsors.
Yeah. Thanks to Overcast and to the Chicago Podcast Co-op, who help us get great sponsors like them.
Jawheads, if you want to support Cinemajaw, the easiest way to do so is by leaving us a review wherever you're listening to this podcast. And you can also join our Patreon.
Yes, do join our Patreon. We're thinking up some new things to drop on you guys, little bonus content. We just wrapped up our series reviewing 3 80s action movies. We're going to do something else like that pretty soon.
Absolutely. Until next week, I'm Rye the Movie Guy.
I'm Matt Kay. And keep on jawing about the movies.